Gentle waves lap at the boat as Melinda and I lie on the deck, taking in the sun. At the back of the boat, the stern, our captain calls it, Leslie and Warren jump off the swim platform and into the turquoise water. The captain of the boat we chartered for the day, a man named Leo, is keeping an eye on the kids. They're both excellent swimmers, but Leslie just turned 13 and Warren is 15. They still need supervision, and since Leo is watching them, it allows Melinda and I to relax and enjoy our vacation down under. I hear Leslie telling her brother and Leo to watch her. Then there's a splash.
"Fair dinkum brilliant,"
Leo says in his Australian accent.
That was okay, I guess,
Warren says.
"But check this out."
This goes on for a while until I realize I need another beer. Sitting up, I ask Melinda if she wants something to eat or drink. She says she's good. As I stand up from the lounge chair, I see something out of the corner of my eye. Something in the sky, flying in the clouds. I glance over and spot what looks like a massive balloon with a lumpy underside, like an oversized knot on a regular balloon. It's there only for a split second before it disappears into a bank of thick white clouds over the end of the sheltered bay we're in. Assuming my eyes are playing tricks on me, I shrug it off and head to get a drink. As I duck into the cabin and head to the mini fridge, I remember something that came up when I was researching this vacation several months ago. Smiling as I crack my beer, I head to the back of the boat and sit next to Leo, who's seated on a padded bench watching the kids.
How are they doing?
I ask him.
"No worries, mate.
He says.
They'll be bloody buggered before too long, I reckon."
I hope so. Maybe the wife and I can actually get some sleep tonight.
I tell him. Leslie spots me as she climbs up the ladder out of the water.
"Dad, look at this."
She says, getting ready to jump in again.
I'm watching.
I tell her. She dives in, making barely a splash. When she comes up, I give her some praise before turning my attention back to Leo. He's got dark hair and a thick but short beard. His skin is tanned from being out on the water all the time, and he's probably about the same age as me, early 40s.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever seen anything strange in these parts?
He turns to me with concern on his face.
"Why?"
He asks.
"What did you say?"
Huh? Oh, nothing really. Just a trick of the light or something. No, I ask because I've heard all kinds of things about people going missing in the Bass Strait. UFOs, abductions, all that good stuff. I was just wondering if you've ever seen a flying saucer or anything.
My tone is clearly light, but Leo's bushy black eyebrows come together.
"What did you say?"
He asks.
"Tell me exactly what you saw."
Nothing.
I say, laughing nervously.
Seriously, it was just my eyes playing tricks on me.
"Did it look like a big balloon?"
He asks.
How'd you know that?
Leo stands up.
"Time to go.
He says to the kids.
Out now."
Leslie and Warren look up from the water, confused.
Wait a minute.
I say, standing up.
What's going on? We paid for the whole day.
"Get out of the water.
Leo says to the kids, ignoring me.
Now."
Then he looks up and scans the sky.
Haha,
I say,
very funny. Playing a trick on the Americans. Just cut the shit, Leo.
"Don't be a drongo, mate.
he says.
Get your ankle biters out of the water. We need to leave."
He heads toward the front of the boat, probably to lift the anchor. I realize he's serious. Something's wrong here. I turn to tell my kids to get out of the water, but what I see paralyzes me with fear. There's a huge dark shape in the water behind my kids, both of whom are looking up at me with concern where they tread water a few feet off the back of the boat. My mouth falls open, but I can't seem to get the words out. The dark shape behind them is rising toward the surface of the water. It breaks the surface, revealing a twisted, disgusting mass of human body parts and black tentacles. Two heads, a man's and a woman's, are fused together. Two of their eyes are melted into each other, making one gruesome multicolored eye. The man's mouth is wide open, and his tongue flicks around like it's trying to escape. The woman's mouth is open, but there's a black tentacle growing out of it. The tentacle has what looks to be black and yellow eyes randomly embedded in its rubbery skin.
Get out!
I scream at my children, but it's too late. A couple of tentacles whip out and grab Leslie and Warren around their necks. They scream for help, even as a huge balloon-like protrusion pops out of the water. I realize as the creature lifts from the sea that this protrusion is part of its body. I move to jump into the water, but a black tentacle whips out toward me. I duck, and the thing misses me, just barely. The creature is now floating several feet above the surface of the water, my kids screaming and thrashing underneath it. Another tentacle strikes out, and this time, I'm not fast enough to avoid it. The slimy thing wraps around my neck and lifts me from the boat. But the end of the tentacle is near my mouth, so I do the only thing I can. I bite the bastard. Foul-tasting fluid pours out of the tentacle, flooding my mouth and dripping down my chin just before the creature screams from several mouths and drops me. I hit the deck hard, scrambling up to my feet even as the creature floats over, heading toward the front of the boat. My wife comes into view, hurrying along the side of the boat, a terrified look on her face. She's clearly heard our children screaming, one of the worst things a parent can hear. But then she sees the creature, and our children hanging from it, still thrashing and calling out for their mom and dad. Frozen in disbelief, Melinda doesn't even try to move as a tentacle comes down and snags her around the waist. It's only when she's in the air that she screams for help. The balloon-like protrusion on the top of the thing inflates further as it picks up speed, heading away from us, out into the Bass Strait. I run up into the cockpit to find Leo coming from the bow of the boat, his normally suntanned face looking as pale as the fiberglass hull.
What the hell are you doing?
I yell.
That thing is taking my family. I was raising the anchor.
He shouts back, getting behind the wheel.
We need to get out of here.
Looking out the windshield, I can see the flying creature off in the distance. It's getting smaller, and I can barely make out my wife and kids hanging underneath.
Follow it!
I tell him, pointing after the monster. Leo starts the engine without a word and heads toward the mouth of the bay, but it's clear that he's not following the creature.
Where are you going?
I ask. He says nothing, but his eyes dart at me. I can see the fear in them. He's not going to follow. He's going to let my family die. With my mind reeling, I look around for something to hit him with. I see a small fire extinguisher clipped to the wall next to the co-pilot's seat. As quickly as I can, I unclip it and turn around, ready to strike him with it. But as soon as I turn, I see he's holding a pistol at me.
Mate, don't be a muppet,
He says.
Drop it.
I swallow hard, almost gagging as more of that monster's awful blood goes down my throat.
That's my whole world.
I say to him,
You're just gonna let them die? There's no saving them. They were dead the moment the thing took them.
I still have the fire extinguisher overhead. Will he really shoot me? I ask myself. The answer is clear in my mind. He's bluffing. He won't actually shoot me. No way. Jerking forward, I strike out with the fire extinguisher. He turns his head instinctively so as not to get hit in the face. And as I slam the fire extinguisher into his head, the sound of it striking his skull is accompanied by a loud bang. He goes down in a heap while I stumble backward, dropping the extinguisher. It takes me a moment to realize that the boat is still going, but no one is steering. So I go over and drag Leo's limp body out of the way. The cockpit smells like gunpowder, I notice as I take the wheel. I steer the boat out of the bay, following the dark speck in the distance. Something isn't right, though. Something's wrong with me. Taking my eyes off the flying monster in the distance, I look down to see that I'm bleeding. There's a gunshot wound in my stomach, down near my belly button. Since I was sunbathing, I'm not wearing a shirt. I can see the wound clearly. And although there's some blood around it, it's not actively bleeding, which I find strange. Also, it doesn't really hurt. Maybe I'm going into shock. Urging my focus back to the task at hand, I look out the windshield as the boat rocks up and down over the waves. It looks like I'm gaining on the monster that has my family. A sickening pain erupts in my stomach, emanating from the bullet wound. I cry out, bringing one hand down to the area. As I place my hand gently around the wound, I feel my skin bulge as if something's in there, moving around. The pain is immense. I can hardly breathe, and I feel like I'm going to pass out. But the pain isn't just from my stomach now. It's spreading through my whole body. Still, I hold onto the wheel, heading for the creature that's slowly getting bigger as I approach. Something moves near the wound again, and I look down to see my skin bulge there. Something is moving under my skin toward the wound. Then, as I stare down at the quarter-size hole, a yellow and black eyeball seats itself there and looks up at me. My vision blurs, my heart crashes against my ribcage, and my breathing grows shallow and panicked. I jab a finger at the eye, thinking of nothing else but getting it out of my body. But it's like I'm trying to gouge one of my own eyes out. The pain is too much. I stop. And that's when I notice another eye emerge on the underside of my right forearm. There's no wound there to facilitate its birth, so I have to watch as my skin rips open to reveal the eye. There's another eye coming out on my left arm. The skin around the eyes is turning black and rough, just like the skin on the creature's tentacles. Looking away from them, I tell myself I'm hallucinating. Leo shot me, and I'm hallucinating. It's because of the pain, that's all. But as I look out the windshield, I see something that is too much for even the worst fever dream. The creature that stole my family is hanging about 20 feet above a reef in the middle of the water. The creature isn't what I'm concerned with, though. It's what's happening underneath it. As I watch, my wife, son, and daughter are being fused together. They scream and cry, releasing sounds I never thought possible for any human being. The tentacles that hold them are forcing them into each other. Legs are melting into arms. Torsos are half-absorbing heads. It's the most horrendous thing I've ever seen. Something presses against my left temple. I turn to see Leo standing there, his head bloody, pointing his pistol at my face. He pulls the trigger. I collapse to the floor, my body no longer working to keep me upright. But somehow, I can still see what's going on. I see Leo looking down at me, shaking his head. And when he grabs my arms to drag me out of the cockpit, I realize that the eyes I'm looking out of aren't the ones in my head. They're the ones in my arms and my stomach. Leo dumps me off the back of the boat and then tears out of there, going back the way we came. My body floats in the water, looking up at the sky dotted with thick white clouds. Then, something floats into view above me. It's the creature, carrying my family, which is now a deformed mass of body parts and faces. The creature drops the deformed mass on top of me. If I could smile, I would, because we get to be together again, and I'm still me enough to feel happy. But that's only a fleeting feeling, because as soon as we start fusing together, the terror starts. Not just my terror, but theirs too. I can feel it like it's my own, separate, but not. And somehow, I know that it will never end. SCP-5007 is the collective designation of malicious, partially humanoid entities that maintain a territory across the Bass Strait, the area of ocean that divides Tasmania and the Australian mainland. The entities are responsible for a string of disappearances within this range. The morphology of SCP-5007 often varies. Universally, SCP-5007 are composed of groups of between 2 and 9 human bodies fused together amidst large clusters of black tentacles. These tentacles are of varying lengths and appear fused to the skin, which they touch directly. Of note are the stomachs of SCP-5007, which are grossly distorted and swollen to seemingly impossible sizes. These instances are capable of passive flight, attaining buoyancy through enormous quantities of gases produced within their stomachs. Across the surface of these organs, most specimens develop clusters of simple eyes and bioluminescent organs. Many of their humanoid components appear to have been removed and reattached at seemingly random points. Encounters with SCP-5007 have been known since at least 1858, with the first successful visual recordings accomplished in late 1982, when an instance of SCP-5007 was recorded abducting 5 children from a Tasmanian beach. Human segments of SCP-5007 appear to remain independent of one another, and their behavior suggests a great deal of discomfort. Vocalizations are incoherent and rarely understandable, typically comprised of gasps, moans, and whimpers, though entities have been reported to implore other individuals to approach them when encountered. Ineffectual attempts at self-harm or destruction of stomach organs have been reported as well. Hey guys, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more SCP stories like this one. You can also check out some more episodes from the SCP Experience podcast here. I'll see you in the next one.